This is Too Far Enterprises, and giving you a repost from the website of at grandson of the Mahalias, a very intelligent black man, and he's speaking on slavery. And the funny thing about it is they brought up the same questions, but let's see how he deals with this.
Millions of people, black people, died, either enslaved or because they were enslaved or killed. We were a slave country for 100 years longer than we have now, the country free of slaves. This is not a thing that happened 150 years ago. This is a thing that happened for 250 years in America, right? And there's death, there's torture, there's terror. There's also 250 years of millions of people giving labor for which they were never compensated. It made America a rich country, and it made people in America very rich. And even if you're descended from somebody who was not a slave owner, the whole society benefited. If I was rich, I could build a school. I could build a hospital. I could donate to the local cultural institutions and events. Everybody, other than the slaves, benefited.
Yes, clearly slavery is the original sin of America, and it did occur for a couple of hundred years, and it caused horrific harm. But it still was 150 years ago.
People keep saying it was 150 years ago. No, it didn't. We kept a kind of quasi-slavery long after actual slavery was eliminated. We built into the 13th Amendment the clause that says you cannot be forced to give involuntary labor unless you are convicted of a crime, which is a backdoor that allowed southern states to basically accuse black people, even children, of all sorts of crimes, and to put them in a system that we'll call convict leasing, where they would lease out these bodies, again, free labor, to farmers, to industry, to anybody. This happened until the 1930s. It allowed Reconstruction to fail. And right after it did, states, starting with Mississippi in 1890, rushed in, called constitutional conventions, and they are not shy about it at all. They say, we are here to white supremacy into the DNA of these states. And those laws exist until the 1960s. The idea that we're just talking about chattel slavery is false. The idea that all of the injury was happened 150 years ago is false. We have to get our heads around what we did and how much we benefited from that, and how much of those tax dollars that we had that black people were paying in the system were not being used for them at all. Their schools were underfunded. Their neighborhoods were I grew up in one of these segregated neighborhoods. I watched my neighbor's house burn down because there was one fire hydrant in the entire black neighborhood. And by the time they got that water from that fire hydrant, that house had burned to the ground. Millions of people, black people, died, either enslaved or because they were enslaved or killed.
So we can see that this man dealt with that in a very intelligent manner. But I want you to hear it from a European.
My comment is, do you accept that could possibly be construed as a racist remark? And most people, a lot of people
America
go,
great again.
how could that be racist? Make America great again? I said, so just ask yourself from an African-American experience, when was it ever great in America for the African-American? When was it great? So if you're making it great again, it's not including them. Make America great again. My comment.
So America has not been great for the black man, but a lot of things that we do on our own, solo. We move in so many different directions that we can't unify. And one of the things that I notice is that nobody wants to hear that. But we have people putting out these videos and hoping to try to touch someone's heart out there so that we can finally put down some of the foolish things that we argue about and get down to some brass tactics and uniting to our oppressor wants us and he's the one that profits from our disunity. And so, as a result, we find ourselves in fractured and turbulent times, you know, and we don't realize that man's schemes are inferior when you think about eternity in the universe, but also your community and forefathers. So the only advantage that I find that people have over other communities is that they're united. So now's the time to learn from our mistakes and honor, you know, our ancestors and unify. Because it is not what others think of us, but what we think of ourselves. It is not us begging for anything. It's about us collecting on a debt. What are we willing to give up for the debt owed to us, for our children, for our respect and our right to live prosperous lives? And I say this because I'm saying this far from the stench of slavery, abuse, and racism. Now is also the time to remind you of the ways of the colonizers and other communities that have taken our kindness for weakness in order to order our demise. We are the foundation on which most cultures and economies have built their kingdoms. We are the people who ruled when most people were in earthen caves in the mountains, without education, civilization, or running water, waste disposal. Africans have become the host for parasites looking for wealth, resources, and human capital. Our oppressors and the wealthy have come in the name of God and left with our land, resources, and children, wives. And history tells me that if we don't unite and learn from our ancestors' mistakes, things will get worse. Brothers and sisters of like mind, what say you?